We are ready to start and open our presentation. I'm very pleased to greet you all here in the room called Davide Sassoli in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for being here at the presentation of the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympics and Paralympics, Diplomacy of Sports Before Global Challenges. And to get into the details, this significant success of the country. Well, we decided to use pictures, images, because they often mean much more than words. So we want to show you particularly moving pictures and video, and I would like to introduce our event. This is a video.
What a blissful day, a sunny day. A calm and quiet breeze after a gale. A gentle crisp whiff makes it a holiday. What a blissful day, a sunny day. We are the land of sunlight. We are a land of delight. It might have been our history, or it might just be our soul. It might be our geography, or just our wondrous plot. The mamas and papas and the heartwarming food are part of the story, but don't tell it all. We are thousands of years of civilization, amazing old churches and castles and rocks, paintings and monuments and a city that floats. The whole of humanity has passed through our nature and left in its wake these marvelous beauties we firmly believe to preserve and to nurture our enduring tasks and paramount duties. Facing a challenge is something we always thrive on. It must have to do with our vision of the world, greatest ideas and tiny perfections. We are always ready to get the job done. And when it comes to mastering beauty, surely we are second to none. Call it ingenuity, call it creativity. There are explanations of all sorts. We think it's our passion for fair competitions. You can call it if you want. Plain and simple. Passion for sports. The reflective, the scariest, the physical, the fast ones, the largest of gatherings and the crazy small crowds. There's a passion for everything and a sport for everyone. It's in our heritage and in our DNA. Our appetite for sport comes from our 5-ringed days. But make no mistake, we know it for a fact, our Olympic days always come with a pact. A pact among our people, the fathers, the mothers, the grandpas and sons. A pact among cities, regions and barns. Whatever we build, whatever we create, is here for the future, is here to stay. And it's not only about bricks and mortar, tarmac and ice. If it's not about the culture of sport, then it's just a roll of the dice. It's teaching, it's learning, it's passing a torch. It's creating a passion so hot, it might scorch. We are ready for the challenge, we are ready for the endeavor. The bigger the better, great achievements are something we savor. Designing, building and welcoming masses, and just making sure everyone has fun in the process. Our plans and designs are detailed and ample, but our strategy, believe me, is quite simple and humble. We gather, team up, and count on each other. No detail will slip, we'll walk shoulder to shoulder. 'Cause one thing's for sure, it's clearer than our sun. We, together and compact, are super ready to get this amazing thing done.
This was a moving video, very exciting, and we would like to open the session on institutional greetings. We would like to call the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Mr. Segui. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, undersecretaries, distinguished authorities, president of the Olympic committees and representatives from all over the world. Dear guests, welcome to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Today's event It's an important step in coming closer to the Milano Cortina 2026 Olympic Games. And amongst the various sports events, international sports events, the Olympic Games are immediately associated to the highest values and ideals of diplomacy. There is a huge distance between the historical moment and the distinctive traits of Olympic Games, such as what is happening with the Russian-Ukraine war, the aggression. So this is the opposite of the Olympic inspiration. Olympic Games travel all over the world. We mustn't forget fairness, but it spreads values. And Olympic Games also show the international prestige of countries. 70 years. In 70 years, Italy was very lucky because for 4 times we hosted Olympic Games, and we are respected in the world for what we do in the relationships between countries and in sports. We can innovate, renew, even during critical times. Especially we can play as a team. Innovation and team play are certainly the attitudes which have driven the Farnesina to the benefit of the country. And on behalf of the staff of the Farnesina, I would like to thank Minister Di Maio for his continuous inspiration along these lines. And today, I was thinking of a mission. I collaborated in the past for the promotion and to sponsor Milano Cortina, and it was a very beautiful moment as an ambassador. We started lots of initiatives with the sports federations, and we used new languages, new instruments, for example, with the nation branding campaign that Minister Di Maio will mention. And this integrated approach is essential for many digital services that the Farnesina gives us for the internationalization of companies, and also to promote our country, also through sports. And this drive toward innovation is effective thanks to collaboration amongst institutions. So there's this real team playing that is essential for these Olympic Games. I just touched upon a few elements that Minister Di Maio and other speakers will deal with. And I would like to finish by thanking the Milano Cortina 2026 Foundation for its contribution in organizing today's event. Thank you, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, Ambassador Sequi, for your thoughts. I would like to give the floor to Minister Di Maio. Good morning to everybody, and welcome to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I would like to greet President Giovanni Malagò, Managing Director Novari from the Milano Cortina Foundation. Thank you for your fruitful collaboration and for the organization of this event. I'm very happy to host all of you. And I would like to greet the Undersecretary of Sport, Valentina Vezzali, and also Luca Pancalli, President of the Italian Paralympic Committees, all the ministers, the authorities from Lombardy, Veneto, and Trentino Alto Adige. The conflict in the heart of Europe caused by the Russian aggression against Ukraine stressed the importance of values, irrenounceable values such as dialogue, collaboration, loyalty, respect for differences and diversity. We respect and all these values, and this is the most important commitment as a nation with the Olympic and Paralympic flag at the end of the 2022 Beijing Winter Games in view of the Milano Cortina 2026 Games. The Winter Games in 2026 and the first assigned to two towns jointly represent a challenge for Milan and Cortina and for all the areas around them and for the entire country, because sports, thanks to its power of aggregation, is an important factor of promotion for the country. And the figures speak for themselves. In 2019, according to a study presented by CONI, sports contributed to the GDP for 3%, and the sector showed a recovery in 2021, having an impact on the GDP amounting to 3%. And after the stalemate due to the pandemic, we must be ready to face the recovery, fully aware of the impact of the huge geopolitical crisis and its impact at the national and international level. The Ministry of Foreign Office is ready to create a specific crisis system through its diplomacy. And against this background, sport is a key partner for our diplomacy and for our economic diplomacy. We have redesigned the strategy since the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in 2019 took the competencies in foreign trade. Sports events means an important element as a pillar for Italian enterprises, and not to mention the Expo agreement that was signed in the Farnesina a few years ago. Italian sport brings an outstanding support, offering having an impact in various sectors. And I want to mention the example of the Prothesis Center in Budrio. And it gives visibility to the food industry in Italy and to the cultural heritage in Italy. A very important aspect, especially in the case of important sports events that have been held in Italy. I would like to thank for their participation all the representatives of our regions, governors, presidents of the province and mayors. In the integrated strategy, Farnesina works with public and private sectors, and we have a consolidated participation with the international committee, such as with the Fencing Federation. We signed a memorandum of understanding, and we have a specific project, the beauty of gesture, and we will present the initiative at another event in the Salone d'Onore of the CONI. In the meantime, our embassies in Madrid and Tunisia planned some activities. And in July, another event will be planned. Integrated promotion includes communication. In November, we started the nation branding campaign that wants to address its attention to 1 billion consumers in the world. It is a collection of values between tradition and innovation, typical of our made in Italy. And the Farnesina has launched a multimedia campaign to exploit the potential of sports events and international sports events. Last year, thanks to collaboration with the organizations representing the main sports, we organized a campaign to promote the industrial districts in Italy. This year we have included other sports, and we want to reach a broader audience all over the world. Amongst the most important Olympic and Paralympic games, well, these play a very important role. Let's remember what happened in Tokyo. Despite the limitations of the pandemic, the games were a wonderful promotional opportunity. And not to mention what will happen for the 2026 Olympics, as Professor Verona will mention. Our ministry is ready to promote this event by involving the foreign net in spreading the initiatives coming from the Milano Cortina Foundation, because we want spectators from all over the world. I would like to greet and thank the ambassadors of Milano Cortina 2026, Bebe Villon and Deborah Compagnoni. And if the 1960 Milano Cortina 2026 will certainly mark a new recovery and a relaunch of our country. The 2026 Winter Games are totally sustainable from the economic, social, and environmental point of view. This is a consistent objective with the role, first line role in fighting climate change. Sport as a huge social platform can reach millions of people and can increase the awareness of the importance of these issues. And the sports organizations can and must be committed in reducing the climate impact, and the value of sport in the social dimension is important because it gets young people closer to values, apart from discovering new talents. Paralympic sports, thanks to its protagonists, has increased the role of the Paralympic role and has greatly contributed. Sport may be an instrument of diplomacy for peace amongst the people and contribute to reaching the objectives of sustainable development of the 2030 Agenda of the United Nations. And some of them are linked to the issues of disability and protection of the most vulnerable people at the international level, like minors. And we must consider the role played by the United Nations. Nobody must be left behind. Social inclusion, environmental sustainability have become important elements of our diplomacy and are at the center of our program. And it has been included as and was one of the main elements. And Rome will host the Universal Expo in 2030. So we want to welcome all diversities, and we are a town that in 1960 we organized the 17th event of Olympic Games. We had at the time 400 athletes from all over the country. I assure you that we will be committed in our role between sports and diplomacy, thinking of our athletes, men and women, and I would like to congratulate on them for their marvelous success and the best wishes for the future.
Thank you to Minister Di Maio for the words that were spent and for the enthusiasm he injects in whatever he does on a daily basis. Today we are here to discuss about sports and diplomacy, and the connection between sports and diplomacy is a strong bond. Now we will ask Undersecretary of State for Sport, Valentina Vezzari, to please come to the podium, and we shall hear from her words. Well, good morning in the first place to all of you. Thank you, Minister Di Maio, for this invitation. I am honored of taking the floor here in this famous Farnesina room, the room of treaties, which is imbibed with the values of European moments, and now named after Davide Sassoli. It is a reason of great pride to be here today to present the Olympics, the Winter Olympics and Paralympics, Milano Cortina 2026. This is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to grab for the entire country. And starting from the last edition of Turin, Milano Cortina in the year 2026 will be pointing at a model which should allow us to start from scratch. We will have games that will be covering 22,000 square kilometers across the two different territories, Lombardy, Veneto, the two autonomous provinces of Trento and Bolzano. And the attractions of international tourism are well represented by Milan, one of the capitals of fashion, and Cortina, one of the most well-known and renowned and exclusive winter stations, skiing stations and skiing resorts, which will once again highlight its sports vocation. The agenda was establishing the guidelines, having keywords that are centered around sustainability, reversibility, reuse, management and economic management efficiency, together with a long-term value. Now, those are hallmarks that cannot be absolutely skipped, and they are complementary to the objectives and goals envisaged by the 2030 Agenda for the Sustainable Development of the United Nations. According to this view, the Olympic infrastructure should stand as a true opportunity for the territory and its communities. The true goal is then the one of allowing for a legacy, a true legacy to today's and tomorrow's citizens. This is also the goal of the PNRR plan for the restart and the generation of new plants and facilities in this territory. We will have the opportunity of transforming Italy in an environment which is a more inclusive, barrier-free, eco-sustainable and green country. We shall also promote our country by adding value thanks to the sport activity, adding value to the Made in Italy and its beauty that very few people can boast worldwide. In the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Games and the great events that have been organized in Italy are the evidence that sports can stand as a further arrow to relaunch the country system. And sports nowadays should stand as a strong legacy for the future generations. Thank you to Mrs. Valentina Vezzali. And now time has come to pass the floor to one of the main protagonists of this edition of Milano Cortina 2026. That is the Foundation Milano Cortina 2026. I would now like to call the president and the president of CONI as well, Giovanni Malagotto, to come here to the podium. Good morning again to all of you. Dear Minister Di Maio, dear Luigi, thank you. Thank you for hosting us for this initiative as well. And once again, thank you to you for having recalled in your own speech the past history of the National Olympic Committee and the story of Italian sports, which I believe should be engraved in the minds of everyone. Thank you to Minister Morgese, Minister Garavaglia, the Undersecretary Vezzali, our friend Luca Pancalli, ambassadors, all of the representatives of the companies and businesses involved and interested in this Olympic and Paralympic project. I would like to once again recall September 2016 when history was imposing a halt to all of us. And after some 2 years and 9 months, we now know that we did grab that opportunity. That is what we've heard in the previous speeches. And that's a typical thing of the genetics of Italians who, after having experienced something that has gone wrong, terribly wrong, after the many disgraces affecting our country, they could locate and establish a pathway along which new opportunities were rising and opportunities which are now leading all of us here in this foreign ministry for Italian and foreign cooperation. June 19 was the date when we won a match on paper. We were not even candidates, eligible candidates initially. Then we could also see the weaknesses of some cities because of geopolitical reasons, Salt Lake City, Tokyo, Los Angeles, and we had to stop. And we had the great luck of having an ally that was the International Olympic Committee, of which I am a member, who had a session in South America, in Buenos Aires, which restated all of the +5 formulas in the 2020 agenda. That was the history characterizing all of modern Olympics, especially starting from the Second World War afterwards. It's not just a single city that was involved, because we've gone well past that aspect, because we had a new vision, we acquired new visions, because we extended, we enlarged, we did reach out with no limits. And I would like to say that there have been famous people, illustrious people from the sports world, from the political world, who wanted to open this area of 23 square kilometers, 23,000 square kilometers, and we just designed a pathway. This is a case history which has been studied at university, which is what young people are studying nowadays, those who are involved in the future in the world of the sports and in the Olympic world. So we had to turn a necessity into a virtue because we didn't have any budget. We had no funds. We had to gain the votes of those who had lost faith in us after what had happened 2 years and a half before. So let's see what happened. What was the changing point, the turning point? What was the trick that allowed us to do so? Adding value where we knew that we were already well known. We had strong international experience in given areas. That's where the Anterselva with biathlon concept in the Val di Fiemme, together with the cross-country, with the springboard. And we knew that after the Expo, Milano was exploding as a city, was boosting as a city, and alpine skiing and the many other fantasy disciplines, as they have been called, were coming to the forefront, together with the narration of the tradition of Cortina, and supported by other disciplines such as curling. Now, this puzzle, or this mosaic, call it as you wish, was what made it possible, and I will repeat this endlessly, made it possible to have and gain the blind trust in us, the one that we received, coming from 6 representatives of the institutions, Beppe, Gianpietro, Arno, Maurizio, and more than anyone else, the governor of the regions, who initially took upon themselves the task of regaining a political balance in an area which was very, very popular because of odd reasons. But it was not just 6 men, together with Luca, who did this. It was rather the idea of involving people to narrate and to tell our story. Arianna Fontana and Sofia Consortola are the ones who obtained extraordinary results in the Olympic Games. So instead of showing our faces to gain interest and to acquire new interest, we did show their faces to be the winners as candidates. And for the 8th consecutive time, we won an incredible trust. We were given and we were gaining an incredible trust. So we should take stock of the reality of the winter sports reality, which has to be acknowledged. Today, or nowadays, this choice stands as our strength. And as Minister Di Maio said, we did play as a team. That was probably a unique moment, a very special one indeed, which is what often happens in our country and in the sports world. We're very proud of that. So let's mention 2 aspects, fundamental aspects. We just don't have to do well, we have to do better. We have to add value to the Winter Games and turn them in the best Winter Games ever experienced, starting from Vancouver 2010 and 2014, then Korea, Beijing. You probably know that those are not just places that belong to the cradle of sport, but rather of civilization at large, European civilization at large. So there is a comeback. So can you imagine the expectations with which we are looked at? And the National Olympic Committee, starting from Milano Cortina, is launching a new message together with this candidacy, where there are only 2 cities and 2 provinces. But paradoxically, it's not just them. It's 2 nations, 3 nations, which will be meeting the expectations and living up to the expectations of the rest of the world, which is watching us. Now, since we talk about legacy, the legacy which deprives us of our sleep, it has to stand as a mantra to us. For all of those who work for the foundation, Vincenzo Novari, the CEO, those who represent stakeholders, well, this is a bet. We have to win it hands down. And we have to do that by complying with our commitments, with the Olympic Games for the with the next generations, the current generation as well, and most of all, because we have great love for this country. Our country enjoys many things, but most of all prestige, a prestige which has to be fed and rekindled constantly. And on the occasion of the Olympic Games, no goal will be unachieved, will remain unachieved and unattained. Thank you, President Malagho. And now we have another speaker, president, who, with his great enthusiasms, always reminds us of the commitment lying behind all successes. President Pancaldi is here with us. Okay, this is just to make you understand what is the importance of Paralympics. I wouldn't want to sit behind the podium, obviously, so otherwise you couldn't see me. You would not see me. You would only hear me. So I wouldn't want to be disrespectful. So Mr. Di Mario, Lamorgese, Caravaglia, Stefani, Undersecretary to the Sport, presidents of the regions, mayors, authorities, all of you. I am very, very happy of being here today because this day stands as a further step forward along that pathway that was taken some time ago, which will lead us to organizing Olympic and Paralympic 2026 Games, Milano Cortina. And I did appreciate your words, your attention, the attention you wanted to devote and to put onto the social impact generated by Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. Well, I've always been convinced that we are not here to organize the most important sports event of 2026. We are organizing only a very important sports event in the life of many athletes who will be having the great luck of participating, whether Olympic athletes or Paralympic athletes. But we are also organizing one of the most important sports events for the future of this country, a future which is now being designed while approaching that event. And this is, as you rightly said, Minister Di Maio, this is going to bear an impact on the social sphere, on the social fabric. So we have to build up and organize and design a Paralympic game, which is not only sustainable from the economic and environmental point of view, but mostly from the social point of view. That's what's important for the future. Ever since now, we may be intercepting, with the involvement of all institutions and stakeholders, all of those who somehow have been summoned to be the representatives and to grant the country system. In the past days, I was with the ambassador of Mexico visiting us in Italy, and the Paralympic Committee is signing a huge quantity of protocols, conventions with many Paralympic committees, only because we've been turned into a case history. Yesterday, our Spanish colleagues left, and their recurring sentence was, well, how amazing all this is. How is it possible to achieve this growth, impressive growth in this country? We are very proud of those words. We are proud as Italians. But the most important thing is the one of detecting along this journey, along this pathway, which should allow us to leave behind the good wishes and the good intentions and rather become operational and organize the best Olympic and Paralympic Games in the history and of the history. But the thing is not the one of organizing any such Paralympic and Olympic Games. We're Italians. We're good at that. And the foundation chaired by Giovanni know what needs to be done. Now, I am here to say that in this context, we should never forget or neglect social sustainability. London 2012 Paralympic Games brought about a social revolution, which is what you were referring to, Minister Di Maio, which has led to, hear me well, the hiring of 1 million of disabled and impaired people and workers, thanks to the positive seeding coming and contamination coming from those Paralympic Games. And people started to look past people, not just to be mesmerized by their own wheelchairs. People have started looking past artificial limbs. They started and they learned to look at people, to recognize the fact that you have to grant those people equal opportunities in accessing the pathways leading to the citizenship right. And as you rightly recalled, Minister Di Maio, and I'm not here to just simply pay tribute to you, because your words were really touching me. Your consideration was very important to me, because through sports, it's possible to contaminate, to seed in the positive sense, in the positive way, the entire world that revolves around us, because they should learn to look at abilities and disabilities. And that's where we can transform, as the United States President Roosevelt said, looking at the disabled by just trying to turn that into a good opportunity for the entire country system. So Paralympics mean investing ever since now in the world of the school, in our youth, making them understand that behind disabilities there are people who have to be respected. They have a dignity. Then the event turns into a game, into an agonistic event. We have champions. We have world champions. But then that event comes to an end and the limelights are switched off. That is where the country system has to start leveraging on that. It has to be something very palpable, this kind of heritage, or it's not just the GDP, because there is something more than the GDP, which is the quality index of life, the civilization index of a country. So Paralympic Games help us understand all this, because Paralympic Games are not just the most important event, but it's probably the most important event that will lead us to be capable of building upon that heritage, future heritage. This is why we brought into the field new resources, new smart minds, and we are ready to accept the challenge and organize something which will leave behind something in terms of legacy, something important. We've been honored by President Mattarella because he defined us as the forefront of the social sphere. That was music for us, to our ears. And I am convinced that by so doing, thanks also, and most of all, thanks to events such as Milano Cortina, we will leave a legacy behind us, which is a more civilized country, a more equitable country, a more right country.
Well, we heard President Pancalli talk about heritage and talk about social sustainability. Now, we shall be facing the issue from a different angle with the rector of the Bocconi University in Milan. We now will be talking about the economic legacy or the tourist legacy for the territories hosting these events. Professor Gianmaria Verona will talk about a few results included in a report published by the Bocconi University on the global impact of the Milano Cortina Olympics. Distinguished ministers, authorities, I would like to welcome all of you. I would like to thank Minister Di Maio for inviting me to this important event, and I would like to thank the Paralympic Committee and in particular the Milano Cortina Foundation that is very close to the world of universities that I represent today, because we are a network of universities that are working on this important data aggregation system to better enhance an event which is extremely important, whichever country is involved. So it is an important moment in terms of credibility for Italy. I wanted to take 5 minutes to tell you what we would like to do alongside some of the results that have already been reached. And I also wanted to enhance and stress a particularly important aspect, the fact that our world is more open, so research is open as well. And feedback is important for our work. First of all, a special thanks to the University of Venice, which is collaborating and has collaborated in 2019 when we published the report on the impact, and we contributed in putting together this Milano Cortina event. The games are an extremely positive shock. It favors growth. It is essential, of course, to enhance it in the most analytical manner to really get the most of it. And we considered 3 different prospects following the proposal that we have already submitted in 2019 together with the Venice University. I want to talk about the general frame, which is well established in literature, and it is always considered for these events. It is a frame that tries to consider, obviously, all the initial investment in infrastructures, and it also enhances the management-related part for the preparation of the games, trying to understand the fundamental impact in terms of its legacy, also for the future. Now, in particular, as to our study, that is a public study, and that we carried out with the University of Venice, we realized that data are extremely positive and relevant for the 2 towns, hosting towns and regions, and this is a positive impact for the national system in terms of activated production. The estimate is 4.3 billion euros, and in terms of the added value, over 2 billion, and then tax fiscal tax 530 million, and then employment over 35,000 jobs that may get a contribution from this initiative. What are the 3 angles we are working on? Now, first of all, the more consistent one. So we are trying to update the data as the investments in terms of input and output are carried out, and we try and tune up and adjust what is happening. We are aggregating data of what the Venice University did and what the Bocconi University did. We're doing this during the week, and we're also examining the infrastructure investments. They're extremely positive, and this is very important from our point of view. So we hope, as was previously said, that it will be particularly effective to complete this particular event. Then there's a second prospect that is very important because it enhances in particular the legacy. And literature is more ambiguous, more fuzzy, because at the international level there has always been a more general impact on the national system, and also in terms of the tourist flows and other aspects linked to the GDP. So we considered all this according to the type of organization. And a second type of perspective that we're working on is trying to get to an analytical analysis of the major events and microinterpretations on the basis of the investments. And this calls for continuous monitoring and confrontation and comparison with similar events, also from the attractiveness point of view. Think of what the Turin event and the Expo in Milan, which is rather similar. So this is a particularly important aspect that we have to study, and we can draw conclusions that from our point of view are particularly important, and they should contribute in literature and contribute to a more effective decision-making system. Lastly, and this is a third point which is more fascinating from my point of view, and it is also more innovative, it is the case when we try to use big data, which are extremely important from the point of view of dissemination. We try to consider the effect on brand equity. So from this virtuous circle, we have a number of waterfall effects that have an impact on the territory, and this means overall satisfaction of all stakeholders. This is the most ambitious activity, and it is something that is important because we need to collect analytical data, and this is what has marked the years of digital revolution. I have concluded, and naturally I am more than willing to get your feedback so as to improve this type of analysis. And of course, and I'm sure that this extraordinary event for our country will certainly be successful.
And now we've come to the second phase of this presentation, which is going to be represented by a round table revolving around inclusion and growth themes. We've seen how the binomial sports diplomacy plays an important role whenever we have to deal with any such global challenges. And now I would like to pass the floor to Simona Sala, director of the RAI TG3 State Television News Channel. Good morning, everybody. Again, good morning. And I would beg you to please come here to the podium and take to your seats here. And that is what will allow us to start drawing conclusions and making comparisons. And only the list of ministers present here today will make us understand how large is this team play. Lamorgese, Minister Garavaglia, so Minister of the Interior, Minister of Tourism, Minister Fabiana Dadone, Minister for Youth Policy, Erika Stefani, Minister for Youth Policy and for Disabilities. Barbara Beltrame Giacomello, I believe, is here with us as well. No, she's not here, but we also have the CEO of the Milano Cortina Foundation, Vincenzo Novari. So I'm here to say something and to tell you something. When I was called to moderate this incredible panel, the very first thing that came to my mind was June 24th, 2019, when I was speaking during the news, when the names were disclosed and when Milano Cortina was announced. I do recall very well the enthusiasm of our testimonials. At that moment, I remember the incredible concentration of whatever was beautiful about Italy. There was team play, sports values, the values of a great organization, of those who really did believe in us, and of those who were bringing home great results. That was an extraordinary moment. And being part of that, even a tiny part of that, and enjoying that beauty and that importance was a privilege to me then, as it is today. Now, Minister, how am I to address you? Are we talking about medals, about the Fiamme Oro, of all of the medals we won and took back home? We know that the medal awards was characterized by all Italian sports. We talk about legality, sports legality of an incredible bet, which is once again bringing into the play the cybersecurity. Well, in the first place, thank you. Thank you to Minister Di Maio for having organized a meeting like this in view of the Cortina Milano Olympic Paralympic Games. I myself do recall, as our moderator rightly said, that day, that is the day when Olympic Games were assigned to us. I remember the incredible emotions that were stirring us and that were provoking happiness, jumps of happiness. And I do know that quite obviously the presidents of the Olympic committees were extremely joyful about that. That was a great emotional moment for all of us. All the Italian people were struck by that moment. Italy was assigned on that day something special because we won the bid out of all of the other countries, and that means that there were some expectations. And most of all, as rightly Pancalli said, we are more than sure that we will do not just better, but more than that. As Italians, we always give the best of ourselves on any such occasion. So we have to organize in a very, very special way. And all of us, the Ministry of Interior as well, have already been making available and starting and launching initiatives. There are going to be bids, competitions for the awarding of the contracts. We know that the resources allocated for this event have to be protected from organized crime. But then, when our mind is set towards the many victories in past Olympic and Paralympic Games, and there I seize the opportunity to greet all of the Fiamme Oro athletes with whom I did receive at the Viminale, that is the seat of my own ministry, because they really, really allowed us to reach incredible results. Let's just think about Tokyo. More than half of the medals awarded were given to the Fiamme Oro athletes. That was an incredible honor to have them and still have them today with us. But let me recall our mission, the mission also of the Fiamme Oro athletes, the one of inclusion at social level, the fact of creating collaborative relations with other countries, and just being capable of getting around the corners in an easy way to start working together with other states in order to achieve concrete results and outcomes. Let me also say that the Fiamme Oro work across the Italian territories with their own provincial units. I know that you've been asked to illustrate the way they work. Yes, because they are very active in at-risk areas, such as, for example, the Scampia area. There are some units, Fiamme Oro units and sections, that do allow for incentives, making young people grow used to legal principles and legality principles, the civic and civil life and living. And I'm more than sure that with the participation of everyone, by doing and playing as a team, and the fact of playing by the team is a very unique, almost a hallmark thing about us. Because apart from all of our political hallmarks, we know that we play as a team and we sort of try and aggregate young people so as to give them the possibility of participating in international events, thus overcoming disabilities. And that's another further strength that we do have. Minister Garavaglia, we've heard what could be the many consequences and results on the economic system. We've heard Mr. Di Maio saying that this is a country re-emerging after 2 years of pandemic. So the offsets of tourism are now becoming visible. We see that we are approaching the end of this COVID time. But now let me ask you a question. Would you say that without waiting 2026, we will see any such outcomes a bit earlier than 2026, maybe before that date, already next year, we could start seeing them? Well, yes, I would say so, because the sports and tourism binomial already allows us to have that kind of vision. And also accessible tourism is another very important symbol. Accessible tourism, accessible cities mean that start thinking that the cities hosting the Olympic Games have to be accessible. It's not just a duty, a moral civic duty, but it's also a competitive advantage. Let me translate this into examples. Hosting structure should allow the disabled to access it. If it doesn't, it's not respectful, and then it doesn't stand as a competitive advantage. If that structure becomes accessible, then it will draw to it new clients. So we have to trigger the mechanism, because that will generate new jobs and many more new opportunities, and a legacy which will stay with us. That is an incredible quantum leap, a qualitative leap forward, as the Minister for Disabilities was stressing. And the power of Olympic Games, as Luigi Di Maio said, and President Malagò as well also said, are very special Olympics that come after a very special moment and period. So you cannot just associate them to the Olympic Games of Rome. This is the first incredible event. They almost didn't want us to have or host the Olympic Games after the World War period, but instead we won them. We won the bid. We had a marathon running across Rome in the Caracalla Terme. We assigned the Flaminio Stadium 1 year ahead of the agreed period, so we allowed for people to see the abilities and the skills of Italy. And if we already have that same vision, the same spirit, that means that we manage a very powerful promotional mechanism allowing for economic development, which will draw more spectators to Italy, which will attract, even before 2026, other people to come and visit Italy. Now, the Minister for the Policy of Youth. 2022 was proclaimed the European Years of Youth. That means that you're working on that already, right? And on top of that, I believe you're very careful about the sustainability, environmental concepts, and of a durable legacy. What does that mean? Would you like to elaborate on that? And how are young people involved in this mechanism? In the first place, let me thank Minister Di Maio for this invitation, for having organized this important event. I believe that not much has been said about this important appointment. I do remember very well how the Turin Olympic Games changed the image of what was my university town, the town where I spent university years. It turned it into a university pole in a very attractive hub for many young people. It also had important outcomes and results. The economic results generated by Milano Cortina, especially in the post-pandemic period, are going to be very important, especially if we look at young people. The binomial sports young people, as Vizzali said, is something which is impossible to separate from the rest. We're working on that front with an important protocol that is the one that characterizes the Foundation Milano Cortina to reflect and transmit the values of sports. This is a generation that suffered the distancing restrictions, a very complex period. This is a generation that was living under the limelight with incredible anxiety, afraid of failure, with great attention given to social themes. So utilizing such an important opportunity is going to be important from the economic viewpoint, not just from the touristic point of view, in order to transform what is an important active citizenship experience, a universal civil or civic service devoted to sport, centered on sports, so as to acquire some cross-sectional skills, not just the traditional ones that are acquired through ordinary training courses. It's a learning process, an ongoing learning process. And that's how you acquire not only the sports values, but also whatever can be obtained through sports. So we shouldn't just look at the sports sector and the sports people, but we should pay attention to what revolves around that world. From the employment point of view, I was looking with great interest to the perspective represented and presented by the Polytechnic rector. What were the fallout from the employment point of view? And what were the results in terms of disability and job opportunities for the young people? We know that during the pandemic period, there weren't that many employment perspectives. The young people were suffering. But if we do not make them understand those tools such as, for example, the ones of indirect training, I think that they will be met by even more difficulties in seeing through things. So let's take a look at this opportunity as a training opportunity, a learning opportunity. People who don't study, who don't work, who are not training themselves, and making them work in the civic work sphere within the Milano Cortina project is going to be important. It's hard to have the ability to choose when you don't know what your prospects are. And being capable of communicating that to them is something which can be done through the sports driver, through important symbols such as athletes that stand as a strong symbol also of resilience. I think that that's an incredible impetus and stimulus. And I know that young people are the ones who truly suffered most and who had to live through that very difficult pandemic moment. They had distancing, they had remote teaching, remote classes. And as a director of a news channel, I am confronting myself every day with what to do next. We cannot just talk about war, but you are to be aware of the fact that you are passing on to other people anxiety. And sports, if seen through the eyes of the young people, could be seen as a possibility of playing in a team, playing a teamwork, and playing together means that allows them to get new contract, good contract, new jobs, new opportunities. That would be a win-win kind of situation. Minister Rita Stefani, Minister for Disabilities.
Now, you said that you forget differences when you play sports. And we have to consider the sacrifice and the culture of inclusion. This is applicable to all societies. And Milano Cortina is a huge occasion. First of all, I would like to thank Minister Di Maio for having given us this wonderful room, which is also extremely symbolic. It is the Hall of Treaties, and we are really signing a huge alliance. It is the alliance between sports, institutions, the country, tourism, enterprises, businesses, and this type of alliance shows a future to the world of disability. Please allow me to thank all the people who believed in these Olympic Games. And it certainly is not something that was occasional. And like all huge results, it takes strength, commitment, and overcoming certain times of difficulty. I remember, and President Zaya reminded me of this, we need to believe and get to the end. And now we're talking about the Olympic Games, the Paralympic Games, and now we're actually organizing them, we're planning them. So from the point of view of the world of disability, the efficacy and the power of sport is exceptional, as Minister Di Maio said. First of all, sport has a huge aggregating power, and we see this at all levels. But we need to look at sport, and we need to look at the results achieved during the Paralympic Games. Sport is a driver. And our Italian athletes worked because they trained and not because they were lucky. So we must say, as President Pancalli said, that we must be proud of being Italian sometimes, especially for the results that we can achieve, for the and for our skills. And this is a huge chance for all of us, Milano Cortina 2026. A huge opportunity, first of all, because there will be a focus on disability. And it's not only watching a match or the games with the athletes, but also seeing the venues and where the games are held. And just going back to the challenge of Pancalli, this should be an instrument of social sustainability. And it must be the beginning of an infrastructure, of a cultural infrastructure, so that our towns become more inclusive, and so that sport allows us to see the world of disability with different eyes, and no longer think about disability as simply healthcare or charity that only interests certain people, but it should be a part of society, of the society. It should be a resource. And talking about funds for disabilities, we have specific allocations, don't we? And you included projects concerning sport. Can you tell us something about it? Well, this is an example of how our third sector municipalities, regions, have accepted the challenges. We have allocated 60 million euros in a specific decree, and they are addressed to inclusive parks, and some of the projects are also sports. So we really accepted this challenge, and 30–40% of the funds go to specific projects. So there is a request, and there is a greater awareness, and also the desire to do things. And the regions used these funds, and certainly we have reached good results, because there has been an increase in the number of people involved, and we have worked together with sports associations. Of course, there might be somebody who says, but we're only thinking about Olympic Games. Not everybody goes to the Olympic Games and wins gold medals. These are not in conflict with each other. But we always have to consider this driver, because we need symbols, we need an image, we need testimonials, we need athletes with a flag. We need passion in particular. Well, I can give you a practical example. Marcel Jacobs training with all the kids in Rome quite happily and easily, and with no barriers. And I must say, we showed this in the news, and I think I must say that it's marvelous. Well, it also represents a certain lifestyle, because we have values which are conveyed, and we see them positively. Yes, this is absolutely true, this driving example. And then the idea of a team. I tried 6 or 7 different sports, and I was a failure in everything. But I love sports because I tried every single sport on the earth. So everybody has their own role. I mean, I could play basketball, but we all have our role, and the same applies to the world of disability. We need to, the society needs to see exactly what are the skills. I mean, there are people who are brighter, there are people who are good at strategies. We must find our role. That is what I mean by the team. We need to extend this concept. We need to change our world. There's the obvious example of the winner, but also of a person who is a good loser, because if we must consider the society that is more aggressive, and sport teaches us a lot. Now, the managing director of the Milano Cortina Foundation. Now, this is a private foundation, and you're managing a huge event that involves the whole of Italy, and you're practically involving the whole world. So what does this mean in terms of the actual management? Well, first of all, I would like to thank Minister Di Maio, and I would like to thank all the ministers present, all the authorities. I remember my conversation with President Zaia, who invited me to Padua in the north of Italy, and said, you build your project and then go straight for it. And this was really the way we started working on this extraordinary project. We are a private foundation, but we have huge controls, because we have 5 auditing levels which are carried out, and we have a very important challenge to face, and we also have a tradition that we need to respect, because our president is working on this important aspect of sport autonomy, and we're doing the same with the games, because Milan Cortina 2026 is a unique event, and 3 billion people will be watching us. 6 billion eyes will practically be watching what we're doing. It is the largest stage, much bigger than the previous Olympic Games, because the Games are back in Europe. So this means having the chance to talk to a wider universe. For 30 years, I worked in 4 of the largest international multinationals, and I always heard people talk about Italy as a marvelous place where food is good, wonderful landscapes. I think this is a chance to prove something different and show something different, because in the end, We have the best engineers in the world. We have the best technical experts. We have the chance to show the world something which is extraordinary. And this means credibility that Prime Minister Draghi and Minister Di Maio believe in and spread to the world, because Italy is a protagonist. Obviously, our games are different because these are games that, as Minister Garavaglia said before, start immediately. We want these games to begin 4 years before 2026, and then they should last for decades after. It's the legacy that we were talking about in terms of infrastructures, in terms of culture, as President Pancalli said. So this credibility must be earned by working with the regions and by following the example that following what Beppe Sala did with the Expo, because we were capable of doing something that really brought our country to the attention, to the world's attention. And we have this tiny dream. On the 15th of March, 2026, when at the end of the games, the entire international community should say, "Wow, what Italy has really done a good job." So food is very good as well, but it's a tourist attraction. But we can say that Italy is really is a country that knows how to be a national system and knows how to show the world what it is capable of doing. And before finishing, I would like to ask you a very quick question to each one of you. The most important objective for the Minister of the Interior from Milano Cortina 2026? Well, the most important objective is that from the point of view of public security and also order, well, we hope that everything goes well, starting from the bids that should not be polluted by criminal organizations, and we want a perfect organization, thanks to prefects and thanks to our offices, and with lots of medals. This is something I would like to add. Well, this is given for granted. Well, this will happen because our athletes are wonderful. Minister Garavaglia, yours. Well, Italy is the most beautiful country in the world, best food. In January, it is the first in the dreams of everybody all over the world. This doesn't always happen at the end of the year. So our objective is to go to the top of this classification. One practical, one philosophical. Practical, we want to increase jobs for young people in this specific context. And philosophical, we want them to understand through athletes that you're not always a winner. And if you're not a winner, there's always something to learn.
Minister Erika Stefani. Making it possible for the structure we are creating, whether it be the games, the infrastructures necessary for the games, will not just come to a stop or a halt, but rather they will turn into a spin-off capable of bringing new realities and changing Italy, improving the Italian reality. So the potential is huge. It has already been expressed, but we have to go on developing it. As far as Paralympics and the world of inclusion, accessibility, we really have to stay focused and turn these initiatives into manifestos. And now it's your turn. I also have two things to say. The first one being that these games be the games of all people, Italian people. It's not just the Lombardy, the Trentino Alto Adige, the Veneto people, but that Italy as a whole feels the games as their own games together with the games of the athletes, because the athletes during the games should come to the end of that experience bearing in mind memories that will stay engraved in their minds. And now, if I am allowed to conclude, I'd like to go back using the words of President Pancalli, who said that together with the GDP, we have to also consider a different index, which is the index of civilization, the civic index, which is what we've been basically witnessing here today. Now, I would like to show you now a second video, the presentation, the official presentation of Milano Cortina Olympic Games, and after this, all of us will roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Lo sport cambia il mondo, perché prima cambia le persone. Migliora il nostro corpo e apre la nostra mente. Ci aiuta a crescere. Ci insegna ad affrontare e superare i nostri limiti. Per noi questo è lo sport e con questa visione vogliamo celebrare la storia delle Olimpiadi e Paralimpiadi invernali. Un meraviglioso palcoscenico che si affaccerà su un pubblico di 3 miliardi di persone. L'Italia, le sue terre alte, una grande vetrina sul mondo, un paese che mostrerà al mondo intero le sue eccellenze, la sua bellezza, il suo genio e la sua creatività, ma anche l'altro volto del suo talento, l'efficienza, la puntualità, l'innovazione, la capacità di organizzare un evento globale in modo impeccabile. Queste Olimpiadi e Paralimpiadi sono dedicate a una nuova generazione che dobbiamo ispirare con valori forti e preziosi. Sostenibilità sarà la parola d'ordine dei nostri giochi e sarà economica, ambientale e sociale. Anche perché Milano Cortina 2026 non sarà solo Milano, solo Cortina o solo 2026. Saranno le Olimpiadi e le Paralimpiadi di tutti e lo saranno da subito. La sfida è alta, il premio è l'oro. Questa è l'Italia, un paese capace di fare innamorare il mondo.
And now, time has come to orient ourselves towards the last session. We've talked about protagonists, and among the protagonists, we couldn't miss having the representatives of local authorities who joined forces, joined excellencies and abilities and skills to bring to life, for the first time ever, as has already been said, to bring to life Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games that will be national Olympic Games. We have here today with us the presidents of the regions and are involved, the presidencies of the autonomous provinces, and the mayors of the two cities. I would like to call them one by one so as to allow them to speak a few words, starting from the governor of Lombardy, President Fontana.
Buongiorno a tutti.
Again, good morning. Many thanks to Minister Di Maio for this opportunity. I've just been threatened by Mayor Sala, who warned me that I shouldn't speak more than a minute, so I will try and stay within that time limit. Now, I believe that it's wonderful to be capable of talking about this incredible, great event. Olympic Games are the peak moment for those who are practicing sports. And I've always been convinced that I would also, not being an athlete, be achieving nonetheless good, excellent results. The pride comes from, please allow me to say, the fact that if the 2026 Olympic Games are going to be held in Italy, probably that's due to the fact that there was a phone call between me and Luca Zai when we decided to take upon ourselves the responsibility of granting the making, also from the financial point of view, of these incredible event, completely changing and revolutionizing the dossier that had been prepared. I believe that this is something of which I am very, very much proud, together with Luca Zaia. Let me also say that these Olympic Games are, as has already been said, the widespread ones across the territory, the very first ones bearing the hallmark of sustainability, the very first one that do not require excessive investments. There is no need to build cathedrals in the desert, not just the usual Olympic Games that draw spectators from the world, but we will have to do all this in order to show Italy, the good, nice, beautiful Italy, capable of organizing events, so to make it possible for other people to once again find more reasons to see its attractiveness, its ability of hosting so many tourists in future years. This is a challenge, or rather a bet, which requires team play. We have to be involved, we have to be committed, we have to be transparent, we have to know things, all of the things, and most of all, the members that play into the team, none of them being excluded. We have to work together. We have also to recover, let's say that, because we mustn't hide things. We must recover for some delays at infrastructural level, because the company that was going to implement all this was set up in the month of November. So we will have to do incredible things and accelerate our timing. We will have to something exceptional, as exceptional is Italy. And I believe that if for each athlete it's going to be important to participate in the Olympic Games, as far as Paralympic Games, the interest, the participation, the commitment is even greater than the one normally had in Olympic Games, because that's a dream, incredible dream. So we have to be committed, thanks to Giovanni Malagò, so as to make it possible for future Paralympic Games to take place simultaneously with Olympic Games, whereby the two things could be coming together, mixing forces, so as to make them stand as symbol, to be seen and perceived as symbols. Now, the second president, president of the Regione Veneto, Luca Zaia, will now say a few words. I swear that I won't speak more than a minute. Thank you, Minister Di Maio. Warm greetings to all of you. No diplomatic accidents are going to happen today. I won't mention three persons, but let me make my own considerations. This is a magic team, and we have a magic dream. We will make it come true. It's an impossible dream. Giovanni, we forgot to say that on the other side of the barricade in Lausanne, there was Sweden trying for the 8th time to win the bid of the Olympics. This says a lot about the goodness of our team. I also join all of the previous speeches and the things that have been said. And let me say one thing, and I'm speaking to Minister Di Maio. Today, the operational stage starts. And it is much better to evangelize the unfaithful rather than evangelizing the faithfuls. Duo is a good network, and this should be well known within all embassies. This has to be the brand of the Olympic Games. That's the highest goal to achieve in 2026. If we are going to be successful in doing this, we will be capable of making the 3 billion people to pay even more attention to our community because of the Olympic Games, plus what the legacy is going to be, the future legacy. So we are investing in the legacy, in the future legacy, and not only in the Olympic Games. Thank you to Luca Zaia. And now, Maurizio Fugatti will take the floor, President of the Autonomous Province of Trento. Good morning. Many thanks to Minister Di Maio for this important moment. The Trentino region is proud, very much emotional, and is standing here very much convinced because of this appointment. I wasn't there when the dossier was prepared, but I believe that we should thank all of those who worked in that making. This is why we present ourselves with two locations in the Trentino region, rich in history, the history of different disciplines, the disciplines of international and worldwide events. We are investing in infrastructures. We deeply believe that Olympic Games and Winter Games will allow for incredible spin-offs and added value, new pipelines, bringing new excellent outcomes and results because of the value of Olympic and Paralympic sports, because of its value. And this is what will connect sport with tourism. Ours is a territory of lakes, of mountains, of natural beauties, and we believe that anyone can understand the importance of the development of sports, of Olympic Games, Paralympic events, the growth of our own territory, to be connected to future times. Thank you, President Fugatti. And now, Arno Compatcher, President of the Autonomous Province of Bolzano. Dear Minister, dear all of you, President Malagò, President Bancalli, dear colleagues, governors, ladies and gentlemen, participants, good morning, guten Tag to all of you, good morning. Now, we were successful in this incredible adventure, thanks to the 2020 agenda of the International Olympic Committee, and thanks to our own committee, because we really wanted to organize sustainable Olympic Games, which is what allowed us to bring Olympic Games where the snow is to be found, where sports facilities already exist, where World Cup events are organized, where there is experience. And now time has come to show the world and to prove the world that we do have the skills and we will be successful. That's a great challenge. Organizing sustainable Olympic Games means, from the economic viewpoint, which is important, and especially from the social sustainability, inclusiveness, as many times today was said, means that a more equitable society, a society which has more solidarity will come true, will be the challenge that will come true. That's what makes me say that at the very end, it's not words that will matter, but facts. What led us to Lausanne and made us win the bid is the same spirit which will make us successful and win the challenge and win the bet.
Thank you to President Compatcher. And now two mayors, the Milan mayor, Beppe Sala. Thank you. Greeting to everybody. I would like to express a few thoughts about the following. The fact of having winter games after 20 years in Italy is not something that we take for granted. Like the 2030 Expo after the 2015. I mean, this is nothing normal, but it is a sign that in foreign countries they trust us more, much more. We need to do things properly. We need to have a good delivery, have good delivery skills, as the Anglo-Saxon world says. So we need to make good choices, and this is something I think, having been involved in the Expo. But we need to be honest. This is an opportunity for the country, for certain things, for example, as to the Olympic values brought in schools. We need to do this in the whole of Italy. If we need to work on sustainability, disability, we need to do it in the whole of Italy. It won't be a tourist opportunity for the entire country because for February, I mean, we're talking about the month of February in those regions. And I saw this and I noticed this with the Expo. Now, if we do things in a concrete way, this will certainly be an opportunity before, during, and after. Milan doubled the number of tourists from 2014 on. We reached 10 million in 2019, so we need to work on this. So thank you, and all the best to everybody. Thank you to Mayor Sala, and thank you to mentioning Rome 2030, a huge challenge for our ministry. And now the floor goes to the Mayor of Cortina d'Ampezzo, Gian Pietro Ghedina. Thank you. Good morning to everybody. Thank you, Minister Di Maio. Thank you to the institutions for this opportunity, for this huge occasion. It is a real pride bringing the Olympic Games back to Cortina after 70 years. A huge opportunity also in terms of visibility for our regions, for Cortina, for Veneto, but for the whole of Italy. And an opportunity in terms of the legacy. This word legacy is sometimes used far too much, but it's essential to come back to the mountains. We have problems linked to young people, infrastructures, and the Olympic Games are a chance to make services more modern and give more jobs to young people. Thank you for your work, thank you for what you're doing, and thank you especially for what we can all do together, because the Olympics and when we were assigned the Olympics in 2019, this proved the integrity of institutions. We need to work on this, and Italy will really be great again. Thank you. And after listening to Mayor Ghedina, we want to close this institutional part. But now we have the more emotional part of our morning. So we want to close this part through images, just like we started. Pictures of the symbolic handover of the Olympic and Paralympic flags, through which Dr. Andrea Monti will express a few words, who is responsible for the Milano Cortina Foundation. Thank you to all those who attended. Thank you, Cecilia Piccioni. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to start the Olympic and Paralympic flag ceremony. We would like to begin. We would like to ask you to come to the podium. First of all, Luigi Di Maio, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Ettore Sequi, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Valentina Vezzali, Under Secretary of State for Sport. Giovanni Malagò, President of the Milano Cortina 2026 Foundation and also President of CONI. Following the numbers, Luca Pancalli, President of the Italian Paralympic Committee. Vincenzo Novaria, Managing Director of the Milano Cortina Foundation 2026. Luciano Lamorgese, Minister of the Interior. Massimo Garavaglia, Minister for Tourism. Federica Dadone, Minister for Youth Policies. Erika Stefani, Minister for Disabilities. Attilio Fontana, President of the Lombardy region. Luca Zaia, President of the Veneto region. Maurizio Fugatti, President of the Autonomous Province of Trento. Arno Compacer, President of the Autonomous Province of Bolzano. Naturally, Gianpietro Ghedina, Mayor of Cortina d'Ampezzo. And last but not least, Beppe Sala, Mayor of Milan.
Bene. Diamo ora il benvenuto.
So we would like to welcome the Olympic and Paralympic flags, led by the Olympic ambassadors, Deborah Compagnoni and the Paralympic champion and ambassador of Milano Cortina 2026, Bebe Vio.